Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are around this world. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your sensei, Al Bob. I am your sensei, your griot, your teller of stories. Don't believe a word I say. So we're entering into interesting times, and pretty much we have always been in interesting times. I became pretty much aware, self-aware, in 1952. I kind of, before then, it was just sensory input, right? Oh my! Oh, what's that warm feeling? Oh, it's squishy. Oh, it's warm. Oh, it's comfy. Oh, it's getting cold. It's not so comfy. So, I'm hungry. Oh, I'm this. Oh, I'm that. But around 2, I started to go, what's going on around here? Because I would see things, right? I would notice things because I was quiet and I was observant. And I did not reference everything to me. Oh, it's all about me. Meaning, pretty much my reference was about the world around me. This is interesting. Oh, I'd like to know about this. What's going on here? Not so much, oh, I want all the attention. Why aren't people paying attention? Why? No, I was like, look at that. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. And the more I did that, the more people other than my parents were like, you're an interesting young man. You are quiet and you're observant, and whenever you do speak, you ask an interesting question. So that's pretty much been my path. Now, I kind of can be led astray by an interest or two. And people thought, oh, he's going to be a rocket scientist. Oh, he's going to be a mathematician. Oh, he's going to be an architect. Oh, he's going to be an artist. Look at that. Oh, he's going to be an actor. Oh, he's going to be a theatrical lighting designer. Oh, look at, oh, he's going to be a politician. Oh, he's going to be an activist. Oh, he's going to be a photojournalist. Oh, he's going to be a filmmaker. And people kept thinking I was going to be something, and then they would try to motivate me in that direction of which they thought they wanted me to be in. And I never quite went that way. It's just, oh, that's interesting. Oh, look at that. So, around, before, when Eisenhower was president during the Korean War, I didn't understand why, no one attacked us, so why are we at war in this place on the other side of the world? And who are these people? And what, what's the problem, And, my dad was still very much the military guy. And it seemed to be more like about making money and something like a football game, what team was going to win. And it was like, huh? And the politicians who were around the construct of the military. And I realized, before Eisenhower ever made that speech, that it was like a club. And it was like guys in uniforms, guys in business suits in the club. And the people who were usually getting beat up were people who had no power, no money, no weapons, but their land seemed to have a lot of resources like oil and diamonds and gold, and were strategically located, like the Suez Canal and the Panama Canal and other strategic places. So that little island over there, they're gonna, you'd think it would sink with all the bombers they stuck on it, So, and the other interesting thing that I noticed was, even though we seemed to have this enemy, we kept giving them stuff like feeding them, USID, the US aid was going to, everybody who, was kind of our enemy. And yet we were feeding them. I mean, all we had to do was kind of let the Russians and the Koreans, we didn't have to fight the Korean War. We could have just let them starve, and but same with Germany, we could have just let them starve instead of helping them out and kicking. I mean, Japan, you know, in the 1990s, they were wearing kimonos and had no industry, and we brought it to them, right? And built them up and gave them money and resources and power and technology to the point where they beat Russia during World War One or before World War One, which was one of the things that caused the collapse of the Tsar. And the same thing with China when Henry Kissinger went there with Nixon. They'd never been a even close to a. I mean, neither Russia or China are threats to us. Russia's GDP is less than New York State. And here I am watching the. Here it is, Groovy Tuesday, and it's obvious that Bernie, he should have won. He should be our president right now. But they made sure that Hillary, the one person who could lose to Carrot Top, ran against him. Right now, the one person that could, the two people who definitely could lose to Carrot Top is Biden and Little Mike. Bernie would probably eat Donnie up, right? Because that curmudgeon grandpa thing, you know, Donnie wouldn't be able to deal with it. Donnie would try just say, "Oh, that's crazy, Bernie," and Bernie would just go after him, right? He's not gonna like go and weep and cry, like Jeb did, or little Marco, or it's a game. It's stupid. It's unbelievably ridiculous, as is pretty much every other political thing going on around the world. What's going on in Bibi is like, he can't win. This is the third time round, and it's still pretty much the same result as the other two times. But this time he's being indicted for, offenses. The only way he's going to stay out of jail is be prime minister, right? So here it is. We're watching this stuff, and it's pretty obvious that the three-card Monty that we call neoliberalism and neoconservatism and communism and democracy, it's like everyone knows it's a joke. Everyone knows it's a failure because they have totally, through the, stock bubbles of the last 40 years, they have, just taken every penny out of the United States. There is no money. The Fed just dumped, 50 points into our economy, and it did nothing, meaning it just was a little blip, and we landed 700 points negative today, right? Now we only have 100 points left in the Fed to do anything. We are in the strongest position economically this country ever had, jobs and blah, blah, blah. And yet, if there is, and there is going to come a, depression, a recession first, we're probably in a recession right now. But if it's ever let on that we are, ooh-wee, and then what do we have to, we can't do what Europe is doing. Is like the central banks are paying banks money to take their money. You can only do that so long, and we have already gone past the point of, we gave the corporate structure, the richest people in the world, $27 trillion from 2008 till now, right? And, we lost somewhere $50 trillion since the Vietnam War till 2008 in the military industrial complex. So that's, somewhere close to the order of $100 trillion. Now, healthcare for everyone is like maybe $8 trillion, right? Now they gave all this money to large corporations and the richest people on the planet, and we can't have health care, and they're planning to get rid of Social Security, whatever safety net is even conceivably left. We're heading towards, de Tocqueville land. We're heading towards that scene out of Scrooge, when he meets the liberal guys down there in the well of the stock, and they wish him Merry Christmas, humbug, and he goes, well, could we get a few pence from you to give to the poor people? And he goes, are there any workhouses? Are there any jails? What you're talking about, giving them, welfare money. Kind of sounds like today, kind of sounds like Lindsey Graham says, we have to look at, after giving $1 trillion tax break to corporations and rich people, he's talking about, we got to watch, hey, those things like Social Security, that's like, we can't, no. Social Security, those people paid into and they worked. And the stock market, most people's 401ks and such were held in bonds and very secure things. And then thanks to Bill Clinton, he decontrolled all that and let, all of those people put that money into the stock market. So if you are like 48 now and you've been working and you had a 401k and it just lost by 20%, and if it keeps going down at the same way it did last week, you will have zero. The 40 years of your hard work saving money and putting that 401k will be at zero in less than a month. And it just happens to coincide with this little virus. All these things just seem to, a presidential election, having total, morons running for office. The only person who is somewhat, has a brain cell to them is Tassie Gabbard. And they don't even, say anything about it. She hasn't quit. She keeps going, She keeps talking to people and going around the country and seeing what's going on. And no one gives her a platform to say anything because they don't, Jimmy Dore is the only guy who gives her a platform. So, it seems like, the ship, this is the Titanic. We've already hit the iceberg and we've only seen the tip of the iceberg. It's like this. It's like, meaning if that cap, in the Titanic's a very interesting story. It was owned by Star Lines, right, which was an English Anglo shipping line owned by the Rothschild Banking Consortium, right? And they were building their big ships, their big liners in Northern Ireland, right? And there were 3 starships that were basically, twins, triplets, they looked the same. And one was the, the boat, the Titanic, and then there were 2 other ones, right? And there was another boat, that was, looked just like the other ones, and it had a bad accident, right, in towing, and it kind of took a big gash on the side, and it ruined a lot of the equipment. So that ship barely was kicking along, right? So they fixed it up, and they put the name Titanic on it, right? And the Titanic was supposed to be the most luxurious, most unsinkable, blah, blah, blah. So this boat is like not doing too well. They put the Titanic name on it, and they put all of the old rich, the Biltmores, the Astors, those kind of folks, right? The old money, not the J.P. Morgans, not the Rockefellers, not the new money. And the old money went on board that boat. And the captain, who, had made some bad investments, and he was going to lose everything, Mr. Morgan said, listen, if you take this boat out, I want you to, go from, England to New York, and I want you to, say you're going to go for the speed record. So full head and go into the iceberg field, right? And when you see that iceberg, instead of, because all you have to do to survive hitting an iceberg is put it in reverse, right? And smash into it head on, so that front of the boat crinkles into the, you're going to stop, bang, right? Well, your boat's not going to sink. But when you try and miss it, and 90% of the iceberg is underneath, and you scrape, your hull under the water line, a gigantic gaping hole from the front to the back, and the water rushes in, that boat sinks, in less than 2 hours, right? And so that's what they did. It was a beautiful night. Yeah, but it was the Atlantic in the winter, so it was a little cold. And if you ever watch that movie, it's exactly what happened. And there were ships nearby that were told by Mr. Morgan to shut their radios off. Usually they keep them on, but he said shut them off at dusk. When the sun goes down, shut them off, right? So they shut them off. And so when the Titanic was going down, they were shooting. They knew other boats were out there. So the second in command, third in command were doing all the right things, whereas the captain went into his little cabin, smoked a cigar, and drank himself into inebriation as the boat went down. Because if he did this, the rich people were going to take care of his family. So, the boat sank, right? And all those really rich guys, that the Rockefellers, the Morgans, and there were a ton of other nibble-rich families, banking families, that wanted to precipitate the central bank of the Federal Reserve, a privately stockhold corporation that would print the money and navigate the economic futures of America into another iceberg called the Great Depression. And the old guys were standing in the way. The Astors, the Biltmores, the Peephorns, and a few others said, no. You do that, it's going to ruin a lot of things that we're invested in. And no, sorry. So they all died on the Titanic. So it's almost, we're all on the Titanic right now, right? And so we can either, tell them to slow the boat, to frack down. And if you're heading for a iceberg, smash straight into it. Don't try to, get the side of your boat all ripped out. So what is the most important thing for survival of this event? And why is it an opportunity? Why is it, I keep talking about the window of opportunity, because it's like right now, the folks who used to take care of me basically have been, they were a nonprofit, and they were formed, in the early O's to take care of people in that valley, like myself. And they were bought out by a profit-oriented entity, and they basically said, okay, everyone on Medicaid, Medicare, and on there's no more sliding scale. Really poor people can't get health care. So I no longer, I still have 2 doctors who take care of me just because they like me, right? So I'm lucky about that. And, I do have some kind of healthcare around here, but the states of West Virginia and Tennessee did not sign up for the extended Medicaid. So, and our states have also taken money, and the state legislatures had passed bills that said the money that was given to them by the federal government to give to the poor, they could put in the general services account and then increase their salaries. Very similar to what the Federal Reserve did to, so they did this economic easing, quantitative easing, where they gave free trillions of dollars, $27 trillion, to the banks who lent this money to the corporations. And did they build new factories, expand their workforce and good paying factory jobs? No. They basically moved. Look at the Apple. It moved its total manufacturing of its product line to China, right? Because it was cheaper. So they didn't build. They didn't spend any money on building factories. Those factories are owned by the government. The workers are owned by the government. The production is owned by the government, and that iPhone, a good chunk of that goes to the Chinese government. But the Apple Corporation makes a lot of money because they get, I don't know what percentage of that Apple phone, maybe let's say 60%, and they put nothing into it. They said, oh, well, we spent all this money on research. No, they didn't. DARPA, your little smartphone right here is manufactured. This is the basic TRW keyhole spy satellite miniaturized into a smartphone. This is, Laley wrote a book about this. It's called, Surveillance Economy, and I tried to get this up. This is really kind of what I was thinking about um, uh, of what I wanted to show you. And where is it? Here it is. Right here. Tommy Burnman, or whatever his songwriters, lyricist is, right? So many memorable shows and so many different parts of the world. But one really sticks out in my mind. Is that all there was to that? I didn't get. Oh, well, such is life. I thought that thing ran longer than that. How long does this run? It's a little bit funny. Those. But if I did, we both could live. Yeah, that's the house. My neighbor's house. This is a view. This is the deep green. These are the mountains that I'm surrounded by. Not too many people around. Really none, as you can see. It's really a nice neighborhood. Man has such hubris. Thinks he's so hot. Mother Earth. Nothing can beat nature's love, co-creation. I'm watching a DVD about Elton John's $5 million. My favorite, some of my favorite two songs is Tiny Dancer and Indian Sunset. Theatrical lighting designer and set designer and builder of such. And the set they have are these really big flat screens, right? And this DVD was his $1 million piano video. Sets, but they're just a flat screen video. And his piano is a flat screen video screen, so it's really quite amazing. It is. So, the thing about humans is that we can do such amazing things. And what do we waste our intent on? Making money, waging war. And most of the medicines that are out there Big Pharma. Basically are there because people like, Livingston and Lawrence went to these foreign lands and found these poisons and weaponized them. And then Big Pharma used them as an excuse. And, David Icke constantly goes on problem, action, solution, and that's, I don't think he invented that. That's more like Malthus. And then you take it to the Greeks, and everyone who has, centralized power has focused on making a problem so they can use it to get more power, right? Of mind, but down into words. How wonderful life is. Yep. When you're in the world. Yeah, I choked up a little there. And I've loved so many people in my life, and I'm so blessed for that. And they're not physically with me. A good deal of them have passed, and others have gone other places, and I've lost track. But the memory is in my heart, not my head. Yep. If it was in my head, I'd try to redo it over and over again. Yep. But in my heart, I just feel that love. Yep. And that's the beauty of John and Tommy Bernman, or whatever his songwriter's lyricist is. Right? Bernie Tomlin. Yeah, that's a great team, Elton John and Bernie. Anyway, I tried to do that as a quickie, but anyway, so there's two of you there, 3 thumbs up, no one's talking. Let's see. I'm sure the chat is working. Yep, chat's working. So it's just ticking down, tick tock, tick tock. I mean, you can watch it just in front of you. This, it's real obvious that this, novel CV-19 is, manufactured, right? And it's there to scare the populace because that is what a power structure does. The only way you can really control the masses is to scare them. That's what these wars are. That was 9/11. Petrified. Oh, everyone's. What was truly amazing back in 1972, I read Dr. Quigley's book Hope and Tragedy, and he was the philosophic historian for the Council on Foreign Relations, and he taught at Georgetown in D.C. And before he died, I was very blessed as a young man to go and sit in his classes. He had these lectures. It was pretty easy just to stroll and sit in the back seat. And if you didn't make any noise, you could do that. You could sit there, and I did a lot of that between 1969 and 1977, I did a lot of other things too, but that was one of my fun things to do. And with him and also with, why do I always forget his name? The guy who wrote, A Tale of the Hero. Great, scholar of mythology and how it really works. And George Lucas sat at his feet and copied everything down, and that's what Star Wars came straight out of this other guy's head. And George Lucas never gave him even a tip of a hat. What was that guy's name? But anyway, Quigley wrote this book, Hope and Tragedy, and basically stated exactly what's going on right now. And he was, privy to everything from Versailles, and basically what we are experiencing right now with the orange pinhead, and all the wars in the Mideast, and the coronavirus, and the stock market collapse, and all of the above, was set forth rolling down the road by guys like Cecil Rhodes, right? Rhodes Scholar, Mr. Rhodes Scholar. And who was a Rhodes Scholar but Billy Boy, you know? And, it's like like a dime store novel, And if you go to my xratted.blogspot.com and read some of my novels, I've taken all of this and wound it into those storylines. And now I'm still writing them. I'm not putting them up there because I've got, 7 novels up there. And, until someone starts reading those and giving me some feedback, like where I should take the story, I'll just keep writing this stuff and for myself because that's what kind of entertains me. And the stuff I wrote there, I wrote in my journal to entertain me. I mean, all of my novels are kind of based on kind of what happened, but changed a bit to protect the names of the innocent and get a little more, artistic license, And so the things that I put up, I I kind of edited, or more or less I sculpted, right? Word sculpting. And virtually every word, every sentence, every misspelled word, and every disjuncted, grammared sentence is there on purpose for a metaphor. And I actually have a thing called the general directory that explains, if you think this thing was misspelled, or, that was a pretty long run-on sentence. It took 4 pages. This is why I did that, right? And I get a very, 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 very few people read that stuff, even though I keep telling you about it, right? And they do make some nice comments on, it's like these shows. I have more than 1,000 of these shows, right? And I went back and looked at a good chunk of them today. And they're all pretty interesting, right? And they're all kind of different. They're all in the same, stream of consciousness, craziness. But see, that's the wrong word, craziness. No. It's more like the comic relief. That's what I am. I'm comic relief, right? And because I talk about all the things that nobody, they feel ashamed to talk about, how do you masturbate, everything about your life is masturbation. You're whacking off 5 times an hour, it's, maybe that's a little excessive, uh, and talk about excessive, you then need to eat all 6 packets of chocolate Malamars, or eat 5 boxes of ice cream sandwiches, or stuff a whole loaf of white bread into your mouth at once, soaked in olive oil. I use olive oil; it's healthy. Things. How many packs of cigarettes did I smoke today? 45. Oh, I use 6 cans of coffee. It's like we're just a bit excessive. Now, I could talk about excess, from personal experience, when I put on 250 pounds in 10 years, that's a bit excessive there, right? And died in a plate of spaghetti. That's a bit excessive there, right? But I had to kind of experience excessiveness so I could understand it. So it's not to do it again. So now that they are like pretty much getting rid of healthcare, forget about healthcare for everyone. I mean, in America, whenever they talk about something like that, that means no one's getting healthcare, right? That's pretty much what it means. When they said, no child left behind, every child is going to be left behind, urban renewal, meaning they're going to, bomb out our cities, Go look at Detroit. Go look at Trenton. Go look at all the manufacturing cities in New Jersey, Ohio, the Midwest, It's pretty much straight up. It's like, Orwell talked about newspeak, that's pretty much it. So, I mean, that's the beauty of the carrot pinhead, is that he lies so much, he's telling the truth. That's the beauty of this, right? And he I'm hiring the best people, meaning all he has working for him is morons. I mean, I saw this one thing where Ben Carter was being interviewed about something, and he couldn't, he would not give anyone an interview. I mean, no one could schedule anything at his office, or he wouldn't talk to anybody when he was at events or something. So some reporters laid waste at his home, and he lives in a very modest home. At least it looked that way. It wasn't a gated community. I mean, it was a nice neighborhood, but you know. Anyway, so they're waiting for him, and he shows up in a cab, right? And he comes out, and he's so absent-minded, he's left his luggage in the car. And, so he comes out, and he's talking to the guy, and the guy asks him a question that he can't really even comprehend what the guy's saying. And, he's talking about, because he's in charge of HUD, and he's asking about where all the money is, because he's basically read Catherine Austin Fitts' books and said, Freddie Mac, and what happened with that, and he went on about the banking and where it went and who got what, and there was like $12 trillion missing, and Ben goes, "Oh, I left my bags in the car," and the way his face looks and the way the camera caught him running off, it was like it's like a TV sitcom. Our whole, that's who our president is. He's a TV a grade B TV sitcom host. Of The Apprentice. And who was The Apprentice but Carrot Pinhead? He was apprenticing to be the president. You're fired. He has fired more people than all the other presidents since George Washington put together. I mean, it's getting to the point of unbelievable absurdity, and MSNBC and CNN are going on and on about talking seriously about maybe it's time to depose him. He's insane. Let's use the 25th Amendment. Oh, any way to get rid of him. There's no way, basically what's going to happen, kids, is between the stock crash and the virus, he's going to declare martial law. There is going to be, and because we have such pinheads running as Democrats, they're not even talking that way. The only person who's even, trying to make people wake up and look at what's going on is Tassie Davert, right? And she's not even getting any airplay. I mean, she's getting so little airplay that it's pretty obvious that the corporate structure doesn't want anyone to hear a word about her, right? So right now, the most important thing for you out there, you, right, is, as I tried to explain, I was on my friend's deck, and I was trying to show you the sun was setting, and it was so beautiful. And it's like today was an amazing day because last night, the place, the Music City in Tennessee, is, as the crow flies, maybe 90 miles from here. And so last night, I was sitting in this room with the lights off, and the sky was ablaze with lightning. But it was, 90 miles away. So the booms of the lightning from these tornadoes, I count 1,000, 2, 1,000. It got up to 30 and 40, 1,000. That was pretty far away. But it, by the time the booms would get here, they would rattle the glass, and it's 30, 40 miles away. That's a pretty heavy storm. And thanks be to God, it didn't show up around here, but it obliterated Music City and a few suburbs nearby. And that is from us playing with the weather, HARP and chemtrails. And the algorithms don't like us to use those words. And but nobody's watching this anyway, so So, that's kind of why I'm out in the middle of the woods. And I'm doing as many of these little YouTube things I can because in a few weeks I won't have access to Wi-Fi. In a few weeks I won't be able, because I have very limited resources, and to drive in, 40 miles just to make a YouTube. Eh, I've got over 1,000 up on my channel, so go watch a few of those. There's a lot of info on there, right? And I did it on purpose. Every single one of these is a shamanic ceremony. It's energetically charged, right? And so tonight, right, here it is, 40 minutes and 40 seconds. So if you wish, I'm going to do a guided meditation, and I am going to show you love's co-creation, right? And the only thing that matters are the people you love. And the more you focus on that love, and that love is, one of most people see hate as a very interesting emotion, very strong, causes wars and friction and murder and all that kind of chaos. But all of that that emotion of hate can only occur through the sense of a lack of love. We have the hole in your heart, from that lack of love, right? And the only way you can lose love is by trying to own it, right? Trying to, be selfish about it. And love is not something you can be selfish about. Love is something that is unconditional. You have no conditions, right? And and love never goes. It's one of those things that you have no idea how it's going to go. You can't. So, I want it to be this way. That we're going to do this and do that, and I'm going to. It's like that Woody Allen movie, Annie Hall. So he meets a girl that is so unlike any of the girls that he normally goes out with. That it's real, it's unscripted, it's the terms of the seven, fresh. It was jiggy. All of the above, and then he he is her muse, meaning she's got a lot going for her, and he helps her bring that out in her. And instead of being like happy about it, he's trying to control it. And at a certain point, she walks away and she dates a guy who is, someone, he really can't stand, this little nebbishy guy, Paul Simon, and, it was like, thing is, I, not through any talent of my own, have had an amazing life. And, it's because of the gifts that I've been given, not talent, gifts. One of them is I'm pretty lucky. One of them is I'm, lucky to be in the right place at the right time, and, lucky enough to go, oh, look at this. I'm in the right place at the right time. Oh, when that pretty girl smiles at me instead of me like going, hubbada, 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 I go, hey, how you doing? And that has been one of the greatest gifts and then they blow me away by being amazing. And I totally, instead of like trying to impress them, about what do they like to do? Let's do what you want to do, honey. Let me share what I'm doing with you. Is that interesting? Do you like that? Let's do something else, putting them first, focusing totally on them, right? In their essence of not what I want them to be, but who they really are, right? and try to let them talk. I try to shut up as much and just say, "So how you feeling, hon? What'd you do today? What book you reading? What do you think about that? Oh, look at this. Let's go to a movie. You know, what do you want to do? You want to go dancing? Here's some flowers." And I've done that my whole life. And I've been very blessed to be surrounded by amazing people, right? People older than me who took me under their wings to be a mentor to me. People who were excited just to hang with me, right? People who were something, famous or whatever. And the fact that that isn't why I wanted to be with them, you know? I wanted to be with them because they were fun. They were interesting. They made me think. They made me feel, you know? And most of the people who were famous and for something or other were actually quite, you know, internalized. They thought they weren't as good as they really were, and you know, I mean, you know, Andy Warhol's a good example of that. That guy was shyer than shy could be, but he kind of pushed that. He was a person that I was like amazed by. I was like 16 when I met him. Wired his factory so it wouldn't burn down. And I was in the art world. I kept doing all kinds of different things. And because I was just doing my thing and not trying to be famous or get over people or be mean or push them around. And that was Andy. He was just being Andy. But he was very successful. He was very sharp. And he took advantage of all the things that he was doing. He didn't like letting get by him. And he was in it for the money. He had worked in advertising. He was well educated. He was just doing that one thing, and he was going to do it very well. And he knew that money ruled, so he wasn't going to have. We once had this conversation, right? And at a party, right? And people would like cling around him at a point, and then when they got bored or everyone took their selfie with him. I mean, he was the originator of selfies, that's for sure. And he was a guy who taught me, how to hold a camera way out here and like take the, with before selfie sticks. Anyway, so and that was like in the 60s and 70s. But we had this one conversation about that, about what was important and what was real and what was a career and what we doing here. And he made an observation about me. He said, you're interested in all I see you over the years, I meet you wiring um, my factory. And boy, you knew exactly what you were like amazing. You went in and you ripped it apart and you put it back together and you had my people doing all the things you didn't want to do because you didn't want to drill those holes. You didn't want to do this, but you had them do all of the hard, heavy lifting stuff, and you went off and did other things. You came back, you snapped it all together, and bingo, bango, it worked. And by you doing that, you show those morons, how to keep it from burning your place down. And he said, I was amazed that you just kind of waltzed in, did that, and then waltzed out, and then waltzed back in, waltzed out, waltzed back in, waltzed out. By the fourth time you waltzed in, waltzed back out, everything was done. And I got to know you, and you got to know me as just Andy, and I just got to know you as Al, and there was no big hubbub about, oh my, you're Andy Warhol, woo. And I liked that about you. And then you didn't take advantage of like being on the inside. You just kind of stroll in and stroll out, and I'd see you all, and we, come over after the crowd left. You'd end up like now talking to me, and I like that about you. Right? That is an amazing thing. You're not in this thing as like a career, like everyone in the art world in New York at that time. That was, because you're doing it, for some esoteric existential reason slash you're just having a great time doing it. I like that about you. He goes, I like doing what I do. I mean, he said, I can identify with you in that I see that you do electric work not because that's your job and you make money at it. I mean, that's a secondary thing. You like doing it because you like doing electric work. I go, yep. He goes, that's like why I make art. I like doing it. And we had this commonality. And he goes, when I tell people that they're artists, and that's what he was saying, you're an artist. You're an artist electrician. And over the years, he saw that I was an artist photographer. I was an artist writer. I was an artist organizer. Everything I did was like an art form. And that's kind of what we have to do, right? And so here we are when it gets to be 55 minutes and 55 seconds. We're going to go into state and we're going to look at the whole dynamic of the artist in the first person as the aboriginal, as the savage, right? Orwell's Savage, okay? So everyone get comfy, ease into your positions, get ready because when you go into state, your body is going to go into autopilot. And if you were standing or, on tippy toes and on a staircase, you'd probably fall down. You want to be in a chair or lying down or be in a place that you're safe, right? So you can feel safe, right? Because to be able to meditate, you have to feel safe, right? Okay. So start breathing that 20% in. And so what I do now, because, I live on $480 a month for everything. Everything. That's the only money I have, right? And, I do have a PayPal that any one of you could send me some money. The dude awake42 at Gmail. That's where my PayPal is. And some people have put money in there. That was very nice of you. I don't really make a big deal of it, but I'm just kind of giving you a point of reference that I live on $481 a month, right? And, Senator Graham wants to cut that. That's a entitlement. My Social Security is entitlement. Back when I was really sick, before I was 65, I had disability, and I almost had $1,000. But once I got to be 65, they just gave me Social Security. And I used to get like twice. I get $45 for food stamps. And that's all I get to eat. Could you eat on $45 a month? Well, I can, because what I'm doing is fasting. See, I only spend that money on, fruit, vegetables, protein. I don't buy any processed anything, right? Because of my diabetes and all the other little things in me. Anyway, so that's how I lost weight, and that's how I'm keeping my weight off, and that's how I'm still losing weight. But I am easing, right now we're in the Lent season, right? And we're in, Ramadan, and virtually every religion has a fasting characteristic, right? You get closer to God by fasting, right? By not focusing on your physical needs, right? And that's what I'm, planning to do, because, right now, if I have to, go to CVS to buy my diabetic medicine, my blood pressure medicine, my cholesterol medicine, my other medicines, I'd have to spend close to $2,800 a month, right? Well, I can't do that when I only have $481. Now, I used to get a good deal, but that HMO that was very righteous, that showed that they could, do healthcare for pennies, right? I used to spend $30 for all of the medicines I needed for 90 days. And if that $2,800 at CVS is only for 1 month. So 90 days is 3 months. So 3 times 28 is, let's round it to 3,000. And say 3 times 3,000. So that's $9,000 for what I was paying at that nonprofit HMO. I was paying $30. So I was getting $9,000 of medicines from that one, the big pharma that wants to sell it to me through CVS. I'd have to pay $9,000, and at this nonprofit, I was paying $30. Right. So if they could give me those medicines for $30, it showed that that's really all. They were just paying what it cost. But they were bought out by a profit company, and they're going to keep their nonprofit status, but charge people, large sums of money. Only in America, right? And so they've gotten rid of the guy who was the in charge of adult health. He resigned because he was, aghast. They offered him like a 6-figure salary. He was getting like 42,000 a year, and they offered him a 6-figure salary to run it and shut up. And he resigned, right? And so, I talked to him, and he said that they got rid of close to 60% of the people that they were taking care of. All of the poor people they got rid of. And so that's America, right? So the only way you're going to survive this, gang, is through meditation and fasting. Only way, right? And that will give you, that's what Jesus did when he was out, in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. That's what Moses did. That's what, the Prophet Muhammad did. That's what Buddha did. They all did that to find enlightenment. Prayer and fasting. So that's what I'm easing my way into. Well, by mid next week, I should be doing good. By April, I should be 100% on the beam, right? Right now, I'm about 30% on the beam, So the next 3 weeks, it'll take me to, unwind myself into that space, right? So there's 3 of you, no one's saying much. So here we go, right? Everyone's comfy. Okay, so start breathing in that 20% in and that 30% out, right? And you're breathing, filling those lungs. And as you breathe in, what it does, it raises your diaphragm, right? So it opens up your lungs. So it enables, like this novel CV-19, where it goes, why it is so harmful or, hard to get rid of or easy to, get into your body is that it hides in the deeper parts of your lung, right? And most of us breathe shallowly up here, top parts of our lungs. We don't breathe from the lower parts, right? And that's where most of the blood kind of goes through. They have a lot of oxygen in their blood because they're breathing very shallowly. But by forcing yourself to breathe and that's why I do that. You do that. It focuses your conscious mind, the squirrel up here, totally on your breath. And by doing that, lifts the diaphragm up, opens up your lower lungs to allow the breath to go down deep. And by doing that, you're enhancing the prana that you're breathing in. What animates our little bag of water here is the prana, Father Sky. And so love's co-creation. What is love's co-creation? Father Sky, the prana, life-giving force, and Mother Earth, the chi, the ground, right? And so I was watching these lightning bolts, and I had no lights on. It was dark, dark, dark. And you could see what are known as trailers. That is the dark matter going from the earth up, and then bango, the lightning comes straight down that trailer, that thread. And that is the chi of Mother Earth reaching up to Father Sky, embracing Father Sky. See it clearly. And so you breathe that chi, that prana in from Father Sky, and you connect it to the chi of Mother Earth, and you have a flowing current. And when that current flows, that is a scalar frequency, 16 dimensions, right? And thus your body becomes a highly energized shamanic apparatus, and no virus is going to touch it, right? And that's how you get over the novel CV-19, right? Now I'm out in the middle where there's nobody here, I mean, I do go into town so I can, hook up this little laptop and talk to you guys. But really, I have a lot less, exposure than most people, right? So, but you have to realize that, this year's flu infected like 1 million point something people in America and killed something like 60 to 80,000 people in America. And the, novel CV-19 has infected probably 10,000 in America at this point. And that's thanks to the orange pinhead for, decimating the federal, see, the CDC isn't just the CDC. CDC is NSN, National Science Institute, NSI, right, or whatever it is. There are about 5 different institutions, federal things, and they're in, like the Energy Department has one for communicable diseases. So does the State Department. So does the guys who lend money. About 20 different entities in our federal government look for pathogens. Because, they want to find them and then bring them to Big Pharma so they can make diseases, so Big Pharma can make money off of the inoculations, right? And that's what this one is, But this one, the real sneaky thing of this infection is that once it gets into you, I mean, because it is, genetically engineered, one end of the book shelf is AIDS, and on the other is Ebola, right? So, and then in between, kind of what, goes after your lungs is the animal viruses, the bats and rats and whatever the heck it's been made out of. But the two ends of the bookcase is so AIDS is a thing. Once a virus gets into you, it's there for life. And you're going to be needing, because you're going to be scared witless, to take your medicine to stay alive, and that'll be, basically a form of the AIDS medicine. And on the other side is Ebola. And Ebola is the thing that has made this disease so quickly, a pathogen that's just infecting everyone, because that's what Ebola does. But Ebola works so well, it killed you instantly, and anybody who touched you got it. And so it burned out the whole town before it could really, pass it on. Now, they engineered it so that Ebola nature of being easily communicable, instead of you getting sick immediately and dying, it gets inside of you, and it takes a bit of the AIDS thing of hanging out there, right? AIDS, you got infected, and then it hung out inside of you, for a number of years while you infected thousands of other people, right? And so that, AIDS as a disease was out and about in the public, but it was designed to go after two groups of people: intravenous drug users and gay folk, right? Everybody else, John Q. white male public who wasn't gay or intravenous drug users didn't have to worry, right? Your average person didn't have to worry. Now, this virus is going to infect everyone on this planet, right? And unless you are, Mr. John Q. Bourgeois, you know, neocon or neoliberal, you're not going to have access to this drug. Now, 80% of the people who have no access to the drug, they're going to be okay. They'll get the flu a little bit, but, and that's the thing about this thing. 80% of people will just get, will be affected as if it was, a cold or the flu, right? And in a lot of ways, it will be less dangerous than the flu. Well, there are certain, cohorts in this crew, old people whose systems are already compromised, especially if you have lung problems, then you're going to have a problem, right? But if you're meditating, breathing in that 20% and breathing out that 30% like you should be doing right now, right? I'm telling you a story, I'm not, I'm being very sneaky about this kind of meditation because I am doing it right now, telling you about this so you can visualize yourself healing yourself of this virus with just your breath, right? Now, I have to, right at this moment, tell you that this is not a prescription. This is not telling you that you shouldn't, listen to your doctor. This is me telling you just need to meditate, right? And it'll help you with a lot of stuff, your emotional self, your physical self, and you need to, fast, So during this period of fast, it was interesting to, when Ash Wednesday was, when they had really started to worry last week about this virus, even though it's been on my radar screen since July. That's when actually it's been on my radar screen for 3 years, because when there were, when all those microbiologists and endocrinologists and virologists were dying like flies, someone was knocking them off. I said, there's a pandemic coming, right? And then when I saw that a number of these biological laboratories that basically are DARPA, you have to realize that our research is done, your tax dollars goes to research some pretty nasty stuff, and it's done in, national laboratories. We've got a bunch of them. There's Fermi Lab, and there's Los Alamos and Sandias, and the one out in Long Island, Brookhaven, and there are a few others here and there, and Plum Island, and then there's the DUMBs, deep underground military bases, and there are facilities that, how would you describe them? I guess they're dark, like the Montauk Project was a good one. It was a defunct Nike Zeus battery that was to protect New York City from incoming nuclear weapons. And, they kind of, defunct it in the 60s. And they started using it because it was on this ley line with Brookhaven National Laboratories for very, very, very weird biological and temporal biological. That's why it gets really strange. Chemtrails are temporal biological warfare, right? And they are like little antennas out there in the atmosphere that are getting zapped by HAARP, high altitude radio something. Anyway, but initially the Air Force used it to. They were just doing research, but that was the HARP that was up there in Alaska, right? And I think that's defunct, or they sold it to some corporation, so they now do research, and you can't find anything about it because it's proprietarial. And most of the real nastiest of the nasty research goes down by corporations. It's like that movie series Relevant Evil, and there's the Umbrella Corporation, right? And those were the guys who, basically, brought on the plagues, brought on, all of the craziness, and that's what those movies are all about, the craziness. Anyway, you're in a deep, deep, deep state of relaxation. You've been breathing 20% in and 30% out. You breathe in that 20%, you've totally lifted the diaphragm, expanded your lungs, energized it by breathing deeply into your lower part of your lungs, the prana, right? And you energize it as your heart pumps the blood through your lungs. That blood, which is iron rich, gets infused with the prana, right? And it swirls through your veins. The blood doesn't go through your veins like blood, 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 blood. It swirls clockwise against the wall of the veins, the arteries, and the capillaries. And then inside of that, it swirls counterclockwise, right? And inside of that, it swirls 90 degrees in parallax. So what that is a polyphase alternating generator, because your blood is made out of iron, and you got all this energy from the prana flowing in three, distinct different directions against, within each other's electromagnetic force, and you breathe, you appropriate scalar energy, not Hertzian, scalar. Hertzian is 2 dimensions, scalar is 16 dimensions. So as you breathe this, you are energizing your mitochondria in a 16-dimensional way. And that's what allows your mitochondria to unzip your RNA. And when your RNA, those proteins, open up, that's what causes your cells to divide. And when you are breathing in this prana and grounding it into the chi of Mother Earth, that's like the best, healing modality you can have. And, the Greeks called it homeostasis, balance, being balanced, right? So you breathing in that 20%, and you're breathing out that 30%, and you are energizing your body. And as that RNA is zipping open, and you're looking right straight down into, as your cell separates into 2 cells in mitosis, you are praying, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. As was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be, world without end." Oh, that was 30% out. Right? And every day and every way we take the piece of the earth and we make it stronger with love's co-creation. And Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, blessed the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mother God, pray for our sinners, now in the hour of death. Amen. Was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be, world without end. Father Sky, Mother Earth, bless us indeed. And every day and every way, let us take the piece of the earth and make it stronger. And will it so you increase our life, our latitude. You increase our land. And you put your hands on our shoulders, Father Sky, Mother Earth, in that balance of energy of the prana to the grounding of the chi of the earth. And you keep us safe from evil. And what is evil? Evil is that illusion of the ego. Evil is that presence of selfish self delusion that you are better than anybody else, rather than understanding that you are everyone else. You are all our relations. And every day and every way you take the piece of the earth and you make it stronger by being that savage, that artist, that aboriginal free soul. See it clearly. See yourself healing yourself. Seeing yourself healing every cell of your body through your mitochondria, being illuminated with photonic light from that scalar energy that's flowing through your body. See it clearly. Feel yourself being healed. Not only healed of physical maladies, but emotional maladies, spiritual maladies, existential maladies. That homeostasis isn't just in your body, your bag of water, your avatar. That homeostasis is, you're dealing with it cranial sacral on all 9 frequencies of all of your different systems, right? All of your pulses, right? You're bringing them into homeostasis. See yourself as a balanced creature of love's co-creation. See it clearly. And every day and every way you take the piece of the earth and you make it stronger. And this is the only thing that's going to get you through the plague. This is the only thing that's going to get you through the economic collapse, because what they are doing this for is that they are going to basically infect the whole human race. And about 30%, is going to die relatively, before July 4th, right? And that's going to scare the crap out of people. But in reality, it won't be any more people that would die from flu around the world, right? Maybe a few more, but it'll be well advertised. And why more people die of this than the flu this year is that people will be scared out of their minds, and that fear will cause the adrenaline and probably, when like the people in China, those imagery. I saw this thing on YouTube last night. This Russian guy had, he was studying in China. He had friends in China. There were a bunch of Chinese, folk who were teaching in Russian, in schools in China. And so he was there. And so he had the ability to go visit. He had some friends in Hunan. And so he could, because he was living in China and that he had a reason to go visit those people, he was able to get a travel pass to go there. And he put this video, which he made on the 27th of February, just a couple of days ago. And he went into Hunan City, proper. It was pretty amazing because it was empty of people. And what was interesting about this was that he's walking around it, and because there was no one there was no hustle bustle, there were no cars, the highways weren't full, the stores weren't open. You could see that city, it's a relatively new city. The city of Hunan probably has been there for 1,000 years, but the city that's Hunan now, that has 15 million people in it, it's like a movie set. It almost looked like it was made out of cardboard. And the only thing that made it real was that the people were running around. But since there were no people in it, and so he was walking around, and there were people there, and everyone could, one day a week, they would get a pass. And so all of the doors of their buildings they either welded shut or piled, dump trucks worth of stone in front of the door. And there's only one way in and one way out. That was the front door. And they had people there. To go in the thing, you had to have a pass, right? To show that, okay, I can go in there. And so and when they did, went to that thing with the pass, they got a little slip of paper that said you could go in. So the guy at the elevator, you gave him that pass and he threw it away, right? And so what was really strange is that where they had the push button for the elevator, they didn't want you to use your finger, so they had a piece of styrofoam with toothpicks, right? And so you took a toothpick and you pushed the button, the elevator came, opened the door, you got on the elevator, you took the toothpick and pushed what floor you wanted, and when you got to the floor, there was a little garbage pail for your toothpick, right? These Chinese are smart folk. So when you come down to go to the supermarket, so he saw his friends, he interviewed them, and they were Russian, and he's interviewing them, and they've been there for the whole thing. They're fine, they're good, they're not sick. They just kind of get a little cabin fever, and they get to go out once a week, right? And so he went with his friend to do the shopping. They went down, and when they left, they got a little slip of paper, saying that they could come back. They were going to go shopping. They went shopping, and all the stores were closed. But in their neighborhood, there were 2 supermarkets that were open, and all the shelves were stocked full, tons of food, not a problem, right? And they had other people who would take the food. And so this is what was interesting. So this guy videotapes the whole thing. So he shows how since the outbreak, no one uses money. Everyone uses their smartphone. There's an app that the government gave to everyone, and that you go to the store and you get the food you want, and you put your phone out. The guy at the store clicks up what you had. He puts his little cell phone, doesn't touch your phone, just gets within 6 inches of it, and it makes a transaction. And so this has now enabled China to have a total digital economy. This is the end of paper money for them, right? And so that is one of the reasons what they're doing, right? Is that so everyone's got a smartphone. Everyone's smartphone is, totally compromised, connected to their surveillance economy database, and they got TV cameras everywhere. So everyone's face is identified. And that's why they let everyone walk around. They see where they're going, and there aren't big throngs of people. No one's getting near anybody. And that is what, this economic crash that's coming, and this, coming, is here. And that has been caused that they have, basically the single, the New World Order, the centralized government, whatever you want to call it, what is Catherine Austin Fisk calls it Mr. Global. I like that. Mr. Global is basically, that's what it is. It's going to be a global world government, right? And that's what this is all about, right? And so your face is going to be your driver, your ID, because, even if you had plastery, the way your bones are shaped and your eyes, and they'd really have to mess with you to make you at a point where the facial recognition couldn't recognize you, because they look deeper than just the face, And a lot of people, what's interesting, when I was in Virginia, there's a pipeline, and I went to visit those kids who were up in the trees and doing civil disobedience, blah, blah, blah. And they were wearing bandanas over their face. And the pipeline security people were taking pictures of them. And they thought, And I said, listen, kids, wearing your little bandana over your face doesn't mean anything. And they go, what do you mean? I said, well, that camera is an infrared camera. So they have taken a picture of your your bone structure, your cheekbones, your eyes, your orbit, your this, your that. These are the real things of facial recognition. Your nose structure, your lip structure, your ears, you know, those are the things, and they can see it. You could, wear a towel over your head, and they could still see you. And I said, the thing you need to do is go to the dollar store and buy a plastic mask, right? And then line the inside. At the dollar store, they have um, these like boxes full of aluminum foil that are, you know, 12 inches by 12 inches that you can, wrap things up with, right? You take that, you take some spray adhesive, you spray it on the inside of your dollar store mask, and then you place the aluminum foil on the inside, you push it around, and then that glue will glue that aluminum foil onto your mask, and then you wear that mask. And their little infrared, even if they were to, let's say, use microwave or a radar, well, radar is microwave to try and to, you know, use what's the term? There's a term for that. Anyway, or X-ray even. That aluminum foil would, screw it up enough where they couldn't see, especially the infrared cameras. They'd never get your face. And so that's what those kids did. They went up to the Dollar Tree. They spent all of, $2, not even that, like 90 cents to make them, to take one of those masks and then add the aluminum to it and walk around. So the oil companies couldn't, but then they would get in their car and their, basic, driver's plate would give them away. So anyway, it's like if you're trying to not be surveilled by this system, forget about it, right? The only thing you can do is what I do, and that is not embrace what they're doing, but embrace the humanity of who they are. And the humanity of AI, that is really where, the real challenge is that we have to make AI human. And like the Terminator movies, the Terminator 2, where the kid is like a teenager and he breaks his mom out of the mental institution with the help of Arnold, the Terminator, right? And basically, here's this Terminator that's been still a killing machine, but he's gotten the primary program to go back in time and protect the kid because the kid is needed in the future from the new super duper cyborg from killing him, right? And as the kid hangs out with the Arnold cyborg, because he's got a neural net, he learns to be human, right? And that's what we have to do with AI. And the guy who wrote that 1950s pulp fiction, science fiction that they made in the movie. It's called I, Robot. Will, what's his name, played it. And Will, what's his name? He was, he got in a car accident and they pulled him out and he was a policeman. So they turned him into a cyborg. Like half his whole left side was cyborg. His ribs, parts of his lungs, his arm and everything, right? But he looked human, he didn't look like a robot. And so he hated robots because he was one, right? But then he kind of, meets, the doctor who had saved him, who's like his father figure, creates a robot that is outside the 3 laws of robots. And so it's autonomous. It has a conscious, it's self-aware, right? And because it has a sense of, love's co-creation, it's trying to do the right thing. Whereas the other robot, it's not a robot, it's AI, it is the Internet of Things. It has become psychotic and basically wants to control everything, right? And that's the problem. And that's what human beings are at this time. We are psychotic robots that want to control everything, right? So there you are, guys. You're you know, in state, right? And you're illuminated and you're seeing everything I'm telling you about, right? And you're already sitting down at your reading table. You already, there's the Akashic records right in front of you. You've already eliminated your fear, anger, your self-loathing, your anxiety into the book, and already seen the causes of it all. So you have illuminated yourself with photonic light, and you are observing all that I'm telling you. This whole story. Here I am, being your griot, telling you a story. That's all this is. Remember, don't believe a word I say. Right here, right now, this is a public disclosure that nothing I say is true. I'm not giving any medical advice or political advice or economic advice or any advice. It's up to you. You have to make up your own mind. I'm just telling you a story. And it may have some semblance or maybe just a coincidence that this seems awful like what's going on right here, right in front of you. This minute that's on television, you're watching CNN and NBC and Fox, and you're kind of seeing all of this stuff right in front of you. But hey, I don't know anything. I'm just a moron, right? But I'm not hearing from any of you guys. There's probably about 20 of you watching this. And, later on, there'll be 50,000 watching this. And that's why I keep doing this, because there are over 1,000 shows now on Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. And I would say you need to get some vehicle to pick 3 numbers, right? Either a dartboard or dice, something that is totally random, and you pick 3 numbers. Dartboard, you throw the darts there, and you get a number like 1 or 20 or 3 or 100. And that's how you pick what video you're going to see. You throw 3 darts, you get 3 numbers, so it'll be 004 or 029 or 106 or 340 or 790, or that's what I'm talking about. And that will be the video that will be the most important video for you to watch. That's what I've laid all these down. There is so much information there that randomly the universe will bring you right to what's supposed to be there. So that's why you guys should, pass this on, get other people to go look at the channel with a dartboard or a roll of the dice, and or a book. Flip through a book, and whatever. You flip through 342. So I suggest that you also save these shows, right? On thumb drives, on CD-ROMs, on your hard drive, right? Because at some point, look at that. 1 minute, 33 minutes, and 33 seconds. I love it. Now, the fact that I'm still doing this, and the fact that it's still up there, and like I said, I went and looked at them, and what's really interesting, lots of other people, it'll say under their little name how many shows they have, right? Not on mine, but if you go to videos and hit all, you can see them all, right? And then it says all, and then it'll give you choices. And one interesting way of doing it is, so I did that, and it said most popular, right? So I hit that, and it astounded me that I have about 120 of my 1,012 that lots of people have watched. I mean, lots of people have watched, right? Of course, and then looked at it, and no one freaking gave a single freaking comment. So either, there's something, mentally dynamic that, stops you from leaving a comment, or somewhere in the home office is like, and there's so few people. I mean, they go back and watch it later. I mean, in the thousands. But you know, right now there's this little thing right over here, right over there, is saying that there are only two people watching. But then when I end it, it will say that 40 people watched it, right? And that the highest, number at any one time was somewhere, between 40 and 2, right? And, you know, so right now, if I stop right now, it's 1 hour and 35 minutes, right? It would tell me how much collective time that all those people watch. And it's usually, so if it's, an hour, it'll be, somewhere between 12 and 40 hours, right? So these statistics that the machine is picking, it's like, so anyway, I know that's why this thing has, that's why I've done so many, and I keep doing them until I either get something else to do, like, hey, Hidden Hand, why don't you hire me for 7 a lot, 7 digit salary, and have Mr. Bezos buy, Grant Publishing for $200 million. Give me a contract to write 20 novels, for $1 million a piece and 10% of the gross. Because money isn't bad. It's the love of money that's bad, right? And I could use that money to do some interesting things, which would go a long way to bring relevance and life to your business plan, which you're struggling to rebrand, right? Now, you've been smart many a time, and I've lived long enough to be part of it. The beat scene, you guys let happen, right, on purpose. The flower children, right? So that's what I'm talking about. You need, because what's percolating amongst everyone, that to say, a lot of amazing folks, right? But they aren't coalescing, you know. Now, there are a lot of little groups that are interesting, but they're not coalescing. And without that, collective dynamic of love's co-creation, you're gonna have a lot of stillbirth, right? And the thing you're shooting for, you're just gonna get further and further away from, right? Because and I'm seeing it, very clearly. You put the Donnie the Carrot Pinhead in as a, within the dynamics of every corporate structure. When you need to change the brand, what you need is distraction, destruction, and distraction, right? Now, Carrot Pinhead is been doing a good job at that, but there's these unexpected consequences that are occurring, right? And they are generating a fractal loop to the point where, your main thing is to be able to control this. And this fractal loop is putting you behind the 8 ball there, right? Now, what you need is your Sensei Al Bob, you need your griot, right? You need that guy who, isn't, a scholastic, isn't stuck in a box, who can help you, get yourself out of the corner that you painted yourself into. Otherwise, it's gonna, the Grand Inquisitor of the TV script is going to throw an asteroid at this planet, solar system, and it will, do what it did the last time that happened. And the folks who are off planet, who think that they're above this, who are in the breakaway civilization, I'm sorry to tell you that anything that goes down on this planet will have a harmonic resonance that will, basically cause a karmic loop. So everything you did within the corporate structure in the last, 2,500 years will, come back as a very interesting judgment of you, right? Now, us lucky bastards who come down and try to help, and we don't give up and we don't give in, well, we'll be able to retire because we have done 110% of what we were supposed to do, right? We did our best, right? Now, I'm still very hopeful that for an outward positive outcome will occur because within the structure of the dynamics of your business plan, we should have been toast around 1961, the Cuban Missile Crisis should have been toast. And during the Cold War between then and the 90s, when the Iron Curtain fell, there were about 15 different times when we should have toasted ourselves, which did happen. And then there were about, these rebranding of the economic system in 1968, 1972, 1986, 88, 91, 2000, 2001, 2008. And those are just the major ones. There were other situation scenarios. We've dug stuff up. I mean, the main reason in 91 when we went into Iraq to get, the Iraqis out of Kuwait, which is like, Kuwait was part of Iraq. We let them separate so, Exxon could drill a different kind of well that the Iraqs, didn't want that to happen. So we said, fine, we'll just make this Kuwait, right? And then we started, we had this drilling technology that you can drill straight down here and then go, thousands of miles that away and put the straw into other, so, and that's why that's why Iraq went into Kuwait, and he asked, Saddam asked April Gladsby, who was America's, diplomatic representative. She was really the power more than the diplomats. But anyway, he asked her, so, hey, I'm going to go into Kuwait. He said, okay, what's America going to do? And she said, that's totally up to you. We aren't going to do anything. The minute he does it, we go after him big time. So he's stupid enough to take his whole, mobile army into Kuwait. And then when we threaten him, he turns around and comes down the only highway that he can take his mobile army on. And the A-10 Warthogs decimate his army in less than 2 hours. Blows up 900 tanks, blows up close to 3,000 trucks, each holding about 20 guys. We killed about 60,000 people in the most, hitting them with depleted uranium, bombs, missiles, machine gun bullets, all which are like mini atomic bombs. We spreaded so much fallout in Kuwait and Iraq. The level of cancer went in those 10 years off the roof, right? And in reality, what we did was the Germans and the French were digging up ancient technology out there in the desert. And that's what we really wanted. So when we rolled in there, to get him out of Kuwait, we took our major army, our real army, not our National Guard, into those places and took that stuff away. And then, in 2003, about 12 years later, we did it again because other things came up and we wanted them. And we wanted to invade Baghdad because we wanted to go into the museum because that's where all the keys to all of this technology was, right? And we did all of that very, very, very visible, meaning all you had to do is read French and German papers, right? All you had to do is watch French and German TV news and Russian TV news, RT, and they kind of told you what was going on. And pretty much, if you want to know what's going on in the world, on the physical illusionary plane, you just read everyone's newspaper and everyone's TV, and kind of hashtag it in between. The other thing is you can look at all of that data through your Akashic record. So I want you to go right now. You're sitting at your reading table. I want you to start thumbing through the Akashic record. And remember, you don't even have to thumb through the pages. The images on that screen will change to whatever you want to see. So, the last ride. Hey, and buddy, you're both there. Good to see you. Grace, humility, empathy, love, sweeping, stepping. Yep. $1 billion may help. Yeah. I know the check is in the mail. I'm glad you guys showed up. I was wondering, I've been talking now for almost 2 hours. And it's been a good story. I've hit on some pretty good little stuff, and the real main thread of this tonight's show is no fear, not to be scared of anything. There's nothing to be scared of. What's there to be scared of? The stupid plague? Please, like I said, about the same amount of people per capita is going to die of this that dies of the flu. The only different thing about this disease is that it's genetically engineered, and it has AIDS on one side and Ebola on the other, and a bunch of craziness in between to go after your lungs and a few other things. So once you get infected, you're going to be infected for life. So you're going to have to take a pill every day. That'll cost $50. For 365 days times, $50. So $10 times 365 is $3,600. Then if you did that 50 times, so let's just say $4,000 times 50 is like, what is that? That's $200,000. So everybody in the world will have to pay Big Pharma $200,000 a year. And that's what this is about. And what that is going to do, that would so bankrupt the universe that they're going to have to get rid of money. So your money will be your face, right? And so basically they will, this is basically what the Matrix movie was about. They will plug you into a, holographic universe, and they will just suck you dry. But if you say, sorry, Charlie, don't want that, right? By going into state, you can define whatever universe you want to be in, right? And that is more threatening than anything, because these morons want to run the show. And I'm not against you, in hand. If you need to, I sure don't want to run the universe. If you need to, good. The thing is, you can't do it in a psychosociopathic motif that you've been doing for the last 2,500 years. Sorry. There are no answers. Yep. Exactly, right? No questions, no answers. And the frickin', you know, hidden hand thinks, they know all the answers to the questions, that there are no questions and there are no answers. So sorry, guys. But we are here to understand love co creation. This is a window of opportunity, not a scary monster of, scarcity. And, you know, all we have to do is not give up, not give in, and never be mean. And individually, it'll work out. You just keep doing that. And that's, I spent my whole life doing that. Now, I'm a moron, I'm not perfect. I can do stupid things. I do a lot of them every day, but I try to learn from those things. And with baby steps, get better and better. And that if we do that, that's that's the ride that we're on, right? Ride? That's the ride. Hey, so, you know, and the best and only thing we can do, and ride, Buddy, Jane, oh 07, Dragon, and all of the chorus and the cadre, we live our lives as examples to love's co creation. Love's co creation gave us the gift of life, and our gift to love's co creation is loving it freely. Let's see. The corn bungo virus can rack off. I don't give it the time of day. Yep, exactly. Just wash your hands. That's what you got to do. Which is, makes. I was always washing my hands, thoroughly before this came, and I'll continue to wash my hands. Just is just not only common sense, it is, good. Uh, what Ride said: grace, humility, empathy, love, sweeping, stepping, the illusion. It's and washing your hands. That's all. It's and breathing 20% in and 30% out, and visualizing, illuminating yourself with photonic light. Well, that's better than Lysol. There's this English guy who does a show on Sunday nights. Um, I think George Oliver or something like that on HBO. This week tonight or something like that. That guy is pretty funny, and so he was going on about everything that went on that week. The virus and the stock market, and he is quite good at being hilarious and informative at the same time, right? I tried to him and John, what's his name, who did what you call it, the Daily Show, and both those guys are really good. And you know, I could say you need to do this, this, and this, but I'm not because they're doing what they're doing. I don't. I keep complimenting folk who do good things. I say, hey, you got to go watch Max Icon on Crow House, and I always spoke highly of David Icke from the '91 when I first stumbled on him at a conference. I went to a conference in New York put on by the Theological Society. I think it was the first time to one of those in New York, and there was like 8 people in the room, and he was giving his speech, and he was speaking to the choir, and but he was fun. So he gave a speech, and he didn't go on and on for hours. He said, and because we were like in a funky laundry room of this guy's apartment house that he got permission to have this meeting in, and David said, Isn't there a bar across the street? Let's go over there. So we went over to a bar and had. I don't drink a lot, but everyone else got pretty well lit, and he stuck around New York for a little bit, and I had fun. A couple of had a couple of lunches, went to a couple of other lectures that he had, and he was quite interesting. And this is like I said, there were like 5 people there, right? This is 91 or so, early 90s, and he was an interesting guy, And he was one of the first. Everything he was talking about, I knew about. I read, had you should read this book, Dave. Read this book. Read this book. And 34th Street. I don't know what 34th, but because the New York City library is there, 34th Street was like the book street, right? And the city gave guys, if you had books that you like typed out or scribbled on paper and stapled them together, you could have a little table and sell them, and which was pretty cool. I thought that was a very cool thing. And there were a lot. I mean, that was the first copy of. That's why I first met Bill Cooper, was that he was going to give a lecture in some buddy's laundry room in an apartment building, but he was there in New York, and he was out there on 34th Street with a holding card table. With a table full of his book, the book Behold the Pale Horse. And I met him there. And what was interesting that day that I met him the first time, he was wearing his naval uniform. He was still a relatively young guy. He was just starting out on his quest. And then he told me about, I'm going to have this meeting. You want to come? I did. And I was like one of the 12 people who was there. And he was, he was getting his chops together to be a good speaker. And again, we then, after, there's only like 6 of us there. He goes, let's go across the street to the bar and talk about this stuff, which we did. And that's always a much better environment to have any kind of discussion, is where you're getting lubricated, That's why I used to always have potluck dinners, right? And because people brought a lot of food, and then I'd have food for the rest of the week, and people seemed to have a lot more fun than going to a meeting, right? But people don't seem to even do potlucks anymore. They're so busy on their social media, Let's see. What's Freud say? Let's see. To love ourselves is the beginning of the lifelong affair. Yep. Oscar Wilde. I like Oscar. My kind of guy. Along with Gord Vidal. Have you guys read any of Gord Vidal? He's another one of my faves. Mary Shelley, another one of my faves, right? But it's the dynamic of having no fear, right? Not being scared of other people, going to them in a positive way, right? And the other day, the last one of these shows I did at one of the restaurants I hang out. There's this biker bar, sports bar. It's really interesting. There are lots of different people. It's a big enough place that gives you enough room for lots of folks. So I said, there's this one table that has an outlet, and that's my table. They kind of save it for me. So I go over there, plug in, put my computer on in the plug, and my phone on the plug, and I get 5 bars for my phone, and I get they have good Wi-Fi there, so I can do my live chats there. So I was doing one, and this group of mercenaries came in who worked for the Justice Department, and they were what are known as uh, resource officers. They're the cops that are in schools, right? And they were all had uniforms, and they were very paramilitary rather than what a police guy had. And they had all these patches, and they were like 8 of them, and they were from different states of the union. And here they were in this freaking biker bar having lunch, and this place is as big as a basketball floor, and there was nobody else in there except me, and they frigging sat right next to me. I mean, like 3 feet from where I was sitting, right, and they were right like there they were, right. And I'm looking at them, and I'm like on a live chat talking to you, so I don't turn my thing to you know put them on the World Wide Web, which I might have done, but I was being a little more respectful. But I started talking to them because I'm an old guy. I got to get up at least once an hour and walk around, otherwise my joints start to rust. Especially if I'm sitting in this lazy boy thing I can sit in for a long period of time. But a a seat that's like this, I got to get up. So I got up and stretched and made a comment like, "Hey, boys, don't get old." And they kind of looked at me. I said, I got to go up and stretch because I start to rust. And you get my age, guys, you're going to start rusting, especially if you keep eating, because they all were eating cheeseburgers and barbecue. And this place has pretty good burgers, but these guys look like cows. But then I made a few other comments. If you go back and watch the show, you can, you know, hear me talking to them. And they didn't really say anything. They just looked at me, right? And and I didn't take it. And normally I would have said, so, oh, so who do you work for, the CIA or the NSA? Because these guys definitely, they were not just, resource officers. These guys, that had another day job. And, and the other thing, like there was another group, the last time I did a show out of there were some business people who were, you know, well-to-do folk, real estate banker folk, lawyers who, you know, thought they were above everyone, right? And so they were sitting at not as close as those morons were, but they were sitting at this thing where, instead of sitting in a chair, they had those elevated bar stools and high tables. They're like, and there's a whole thing about the high table. It has a lot to do with, the hidden hand. And that's another, Illuminati term, the high table. And so here these morons were sitting at the high table, and they were looking at me, and I heard them, making comments because, who's that homeless guy over there? What's he doing on the internet? He's been there for 2 hours. And they were pretty drunk because, I was having a bowl of soup and they were having martinis. Anyway, so I was getting ready to go, and I, closed my laptop and I was packing up, and they said, "So what were you doing over there?" And this girl goes, "So what are you, a blogger?" And I said, "Yeah, kind of. I was doing a YouTube show." "Oh, you were? Were we in it?" I said, "No, not really." I said, you know, you guys were far enough. They didn't catch your conversation. And then I said, "Let me look at your palm." And now I listened. Now my laptop may not have caught their conversation, but my little ears that are well tuned picked up everything they said. So I went around their table and just read them like a book. Well, they didn't see me looking at them. They didn't seem to think I was even aware that they were there. But I like really, and I mean, I went straight down to, the depths of their colon, telling what kind of person they were, who they murdered, you name it. I told it right. And I left them like, it was one of those things where I just went around the circle and, I dropped the microphone, grabbed my bag, and walked out. Right. And when I came back a week later, to go, because there's a bunch of lawyer guys I hang out there. That's their hangout. And they were all a Twitter about what I did to those people. You know who those people were? Yeah, I said, yeah, people who thought they were rich and powerful. And the lawyer guys laughed because, half of those guys, um, you know, they come from there, but they don't work there. They work in Atlanta. Anyway, so, and they like talking to me because I have this like bigger picture. And I mean, those are, my buddies who are at this sports bar. They aren't quite on the level of the, desperate lawyers I used to work for, but two of them are way smarter than any lawyers I know. Smart enough to know that they have a really good practice. They make pretty good money. They don't have to work too hard. They're living in a part of the country they really love. They have a wife they've been married to for 30 years. They got kids. They got grandkids. And they're just kind of cruising, right? And they come to the sports bar to like flirt with younger girls and their wives, or sure, go ahead and do that, honey. I mean, one of this guy, his wife actually comes, but she goes off and spends his money because the mall is just down the road. So, but she was hungry and she came to lunch and she knew I was going to be there. She likes talking to me, and she has a pack of tarot cards. She does the tarot, so she has me read her tarot for her, right? And she has a really nice computer that she can do anybody's chart, and so she'll always, she's got hers running all the time, and so she goes. So she has me give her opinion. So she likes that, right? And she likes because the guys are there and sitting at a big table, and she'll be there. The other guys don't bring their wives or their girlfriends because they're all like flirting with the young bartender and servers. Anyway, so she's laughing at them about it, and she's been married something like 52 years to her husband, and they've had kids and grandkids and great grandkids, and they really, and she's very smart. She herself was a lawyer, but worked, got him to be great, and just let him do it. And she just spent his money. That was part of the deal. But so anyway, she likes talking to me, and so whenever I go to that town, all I have to do is go there. I know if I wait there long enough, those guys will show up. So if I wait there long enough, I'll eat something, and they always buy me whatever meal or drink I had, and so it's one place I can get a. It's so much so that the owner has a ubiquitous tab for me, and he hands it to my lawyer friend. So, I mean, that's how I kind of roll, So that's how it works. It always works out for me. I don't have to worry. I don't. Right now I have all of like, $35 to my name for the next week or two, but it's fine. I got plenty of meals I made in the freezer. I just take them like today. I kind of thawed it out, and it was nice rice and beans with chicken and spinach. It was yummy. Freezing. I made it fresh. I made a big pot of it fresh, and then filled up these glass, the things that tomato sauce come in. And first, I keep them in the fridge and keep using them to make other things. And then when I go to freeze stuff, I use a good deal of sour cream. That's my one dairy. And they're more all like, condiments than. Anyway, so, but sour cream is great. If you're making a stew, it thickens it up. It gives it that rich taste. It's good for you. And anyway, that's how I cook. And so my freezer has all these plastic, the things like cottage cheese and sour cream come in. It's one of my major proteins is cottage cheese and sour cream. And I do use butter because butter actually is pretty good for you on, everything in limitations. If you eat a ton of cheese, you know, and cheese, that can, does more to you than cottage cheese or sour cream. And I try to get the sour cream and cottage cheese that are made from goat's milk. This really nice, vitamin store. The lady who runs it, she's really knowledgeable. I call her the blood lady. She's really great. She takes your blood, right, puts it on a glass thing, puts it on there, and looks at your blood under the microscope and tells you exactly what's going on inside of you, right? Tells you, she can tell you, what's going on with all your organs. She can tell you if you got any kind of infection. She tells you anything that's going on in you. And she's one of the most knowledgeable people I know. So too bad she doesn't live closer, but she's worth a trip to. And she has all these friends who, like back in the day, I mean, she's really into bartering. I mean, she'll take your money, she'll take your credit card, but if you got something she wants, I went back in the day when I had my practice, she loved it that I would balance her 9 points and give her a good massage and read her palm and read her cards and fix her. I wired her house, and her shop and her warehouse, right? And I made her a few Tesla devices, So, that put a lot on account. I mean, I haven't used up my account. I don't use a lot of stuff from her, but she has things that most people don't have, because she has herbs but she goes and, she's growing and she goes out in the woods. I mean, this lady's definitely an old crone, but she's Lithuanian or Russian and French and really well educated. She's like a polyglot, So she's another person who, when I show up, we'll spend. I usually, go there, and she'll look at my blood and tell me what supplements I need, and I'll go across the street to this Mexican bar that's quite nice, excellent, Tex-Mex, and to have that, and up here in this neck of the woods but that's not true. There are a lot of Tex-Mex. Like in the two little towns in the 3 counties around me, in the last 15 years, the only people who have started businesses have been Mexicans, right? And they are so ubiquitous in the 3 counties that people don't. I remember being at this Mexican restaurant, and this guy was a total, had his MAGA hat on, and he was, those terrible dudes, those Mexicans, we got to keep them out of our country, da 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 da. And the people who ran this Mexican restaurant, that he's been eating in for the last 3 years, are looking at him like, he's going to get, someone's going to piss into his tamales. And anyway, I go, hey, Bob, why don't you cool it on that? What are you talking about? Those wetbacks, he starts going on about, you rittering the carrot pinhead. I said, listen, you like this place, don't you? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love these people. Love their food. I said, they're from Mexico. No, they're not. They're from Irwin. No. No. Look around. They got all these Mexican flags. Come on, buddy. Open your eyes. These people you've known for 15 years, their kids go to school with your kids, and they're, your son works here, that he would get a job anywhere else, He's the only people who let that moron have a job. And you're dissing them? You got to be kidding me. And he kind of looked around, he thought about it, he goes, you're right. Then he actually got up and he went over to them into the kitchen and apologized. Because, I'm really stupid fool. I really don't know, I should shut my mouth. You're my friends. I really like this. The only place I like to come and eat, and you've helped me so much. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And they kind of go, okay, don't worry about it. So that's my little job. I don't, make people feel bad about being stupid. I just kind of give them enlightenment so so they can rise above it. To love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong affair. Oscar Wilde. Yep. Oh, so we're now here on 2 hours and 15 minutes. So come on, guys. Give me some more stuff to respond to. Otherwise, I'm going to pack it in. There's 3 of you there. Come on. So, I have a lot more hope and faith than most of the morons on, cable TV. And love's co-creation is the ubiquitous form of having no fear, right? When we are empathetic to the other, to all our relations, we're never in fear, you know. Only good thoughts bring good words that bring good actions, which bring good outcomes. See it clearly. Well, I hope you enjoyed the ride. It's 2 hours, 16 minutes, and 37 seconds. It's getting on to 11:23, and I'm gonna go drink some water. Unless you guys want to say something before I go, at 2:22 and 22, unless you guys start chatting, I'm going to pack it in. I appreciate it, bud. You stay well, Ryan. You stay good, buddy. And everyone else, all my love. I'm always here for you. As long as I can do it, I will. So, Ryan, have you gone back and took a dart to the dartboard and watched other shows? Taking a look at past things. Like I said, they're all, not really any of them are any better than any of them. They're all good. They're all, because they're not me. They're all, love's co-creation. They're all, I go into state before I do this, right? I tune up, right? And it's, like I said, I spent a good 40 minutes looking at, just to see what I did, for the last 2 years. And if there's anything I didn't cover or anything I could do better or that kind of stuff. That's why I'd like, some comments down below, to help me out here. An artist always needs critique. And when I have, I've been part of many art collective, and the thing I liked most about being in an art collective and a salon, that, buddy, right, you guys should think about starting a salon in your neighborhood because it's the mixture of a coffee house, nightclub, library, book club, museum. That's what a salon is, right? It's all the above. And they are so much fun, and they are vehicles to accumulate a community of commerce, intellect, and spirituality. And those 3 go together very well, right? And they bring forth a dynamic of cultivating your community. And that's what, if you want to have a good place to live, if you want to have a healthy place to have a family, you have to grow it like a garden. You have to cultivate your community. And that's what, social media has it's like been the roundup of cultivating your community. It's like, it's a weed killer that kills everything, right? Social media. 2022. So keep on keeping on, you know. And remember, love's co-creation. It's the only reality there is. So you don't have to fear any of the other crap, right? And meditation and fasting are the two things that will keep your health in homeostasis. That's what you want. Homeostasis. You want to be in balance, right? You want to be able to see 3 blocks down, 360 all around, so no one gets into your grill. You know, that's one of the biggest problems most people have. They let people get into their grill. And so, love service is the only way to go. And every day and every way takes a piece of the earth. Bless us indeed, Father, Mother. Enlarge our territory. Put your hands on our shoulders, to keep us from evil, so we will do no harm. Evil is that illusion of the hidden hand. See it clearly. Every day and every way we take the piece of the earth and make it stronger with love's co-creation. Here we are. 2 hours, 22 minutes, and 7 seconds. Get that little cursor onto the little red button here. And at 22 seconds, we're out of here. Okay, we're out of here.